The morning started like any other Tuesday. The alarm went off at 6, the coffee tasted the same, and the drive to the station was quiet. For someone who had spent 7 years working as a paramedic, these rhythms had become second nature. The uniform went on without thinking. The equipment check was automatic. Another day, another shift, another series of calls that would probably blend into all the others. By 10 in the morning, the radio crackled to life. Minor traffic accident on Route 47 near the old shopping center. 2 vehicles involved, no apparent serious injuries. Standard stuff. The kind of call that happened dozens of times every week in a city this size. Nothing to get worked up about. The ambulance pulled up to the scene about 12 minutes later. A blue sedan had rear-ended a red pickup truck at a traffic light. Both vehicles had some damage, but nothing catastrophic. The pickup driver was already out of his vehicle on his phone, probably talking to his insurance company. The sedan driver was still sitting in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel. That dazed look people get after even a minor collision. Walking up to the sedan, there was a practiced routine to follow. Knock on the window gently. Make eye contact. Speak calmly. Ask if everyone is okay. The woman in the driver's seat nodded slowly and unlocked the door. She looked to be in her early 30s with tired eyes that suggested she'd been dealing with a lot even before this accident happened. Hi there, I'm from the ambulance service. Can you tell me if you're hurt anywhere? Her voice came out shaky. I don't think so. I didn't see him stop. I was looking at... She trailed off, glancing toward the back seat. That's when the little girl came into focus. Sitting in a booster seat, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit, was a child who couldn't have been older than 5 or 6. She had dark curly hair pulled into 2 ponytails and the most serious expression a kid that age could manage. While her mother seemed rattled, the little one was quiet, watching everything with careful attention. Hey there. The greeting came out softer, the way it always did with kids. That's a nice rabbit you've got. Does he have a name? The girl studied him for a long moment before answering. Mr. Hops with 2 P's. 2 P's, that's important. A smile felt natural here. Kids needed to see calm, needed to know everything was going to be fine. Is Mr. Hops doing okay after that bump? She nodded seriously. He's brave, and I can see that. Are you feeling okay? Nothing hurts? Another nod. The mother reached back and touched her daughter's knee, a gesture that spoke volumes about the protective bond between them. The next 15 minutes followed the standard protocol. Blood pressure check, pulse. Questions about neck pain, back pain, headaches, dizziness. The mother answered everything while keeping one hand extended toward her daughter, maintaining that physical connection. No signs of whiplash, no visible injuries. Both of them seemed shaken but physically fine. The police officer on scene was taking statements. The pickup driver was unhappy but unhurt. Insurance information was being exchanged. The tow truck hadn't arrived yet, but both vehicles were drivable. A completely routine call, the kind that would be forgotten by lunchtime. You're both cleared medically. The explanation came with the standard advice. But if you start feeling any pain or dizziness later today, head to urgent care or your doctor, okay? Sometimes these things show up a few hours after the fact. The mother nodded, relief washing over her face. Thank you. Really, I'm sorry, I know this is probably such a boring call for you. There was something about the way she said it, apologetic and self-conscious, that made the response come out more genuine than usual, not boring. This is the job. Making sure people are okay is never boring. The little girl spoke up then, her voice clear and certain. You're an ambulance man. That's right. That's what I do. You help people who get hurt? I try to, yeah. She seemed to consider this carefully, like she was filing the information away for later use. That's good. We need people who help. Such an odd thing for a small child to say with such conviction. Most kids this age asked about the sirens or wanted to see inside the ambulance. This one talked about helping people like she understood what it meant. The partner was already packing up the equipment, ready to clear the scene. The police had everything they needed. The mother was on the phone with someone, probably a family member. Her voice still shaky as she explained what had happened. The little girl continued watching. Mr. Hops held tight against her chest. You two take care, all right? The mother looked up from her phone call, covered the receiver. Thank you again. I really appreciate you being so kind. Walking back to the ambulance, there was a moment of looking back. The mother was helping her daughter out of the booster seat now, and the little one was pointing at the ambulance, explaining something to her mother with animated hand gestures. A smile, a wave, and then it was time to move on. The ambulance door closed. The equipment was secured. The partner drove back toward the station while filling out the incident report on the tablet. Names went into boxes. Vitals were recorded. Disposition. No transport needed, cleared on scene. Case closed. Lunch? The partner asked. Yeah, sounds good. By noon, the call had faded into the background of the day. There was a cardiac emergency at a nursing home in the afternoon. A teenager with a possible broken ankle at a basketball court. An elderly man who'd fallen in his kitchen. The usual parade of human difficulty and fragility that made up every shift. Driving home that evening, stuck in traffic on the same route where the morning's accident had happened, there wasn't any particular thought given to the woman and her daughter. They were fine. That was the job. Show up, make sure people are okay, move on to the next call. 7 years of doing this had created a necessary emotional distance. Care about everyone, but don't carry everyone home with you. Otherwise, the weight would be impossible to bear. The apartment was quiet. Dinner was leftover pizza eaten while half watching a basketball game. A shower, sometimes scrolling through the phone. Sleep came easy after a 12-hour shift. There was no way to know that everything had just changed. No cosmic sign. No lightning bolt of recognition. Just a routine call on a Tuesday morning, filed away with thousands of others seemingly forgotten. But life has a strange way of circling back to moments that matter. Sometimes destiny doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it just quietly takes notes, waiting for the right moment to reveal what was really happening all along. The little girl with the stuffed rabbit had been right about one thing. We need people who help. And sometimes, without knowing it, people help us right back in ways we never see coming. 3 weeks had passed since that Tuesday morning accident. The shifts kept coming, the calls kept blending together, and life continued in its predictable pattern. Thursday morning meant a stop at the coffee shop on 3rd Street before the early shift. It was a small place, locally owned, with decent coffee and breakfast sandwiches that actually tasted homemade. The line was longer than usual. Standing there, scrolling through the phone, half awake and waiting to order the usual. There wasn't any particular awareness of the other customers, just the general background noise of a busy morning. People ordering complicated drinks, the hiss of the espresso machine, someone's kid asking questions about the pastries in the display case. You're the ambulance man. The voice was small but certain. Looking down, there she was, the girl with the stuffed rabbit, though Mr. Hops wasn't with her today. She was holding her mother's hand, looking up with that same serious expression from before. It took a second to place them. Then the memory clicked. The accident, the blue sedan, the careful way the mother had kept reaching back to touch her daughter's knee. Hey, I remember you. How are you doing? Everything okay after that accident? The little girl nodded. We got a new car. Well, not new. Mom says we got a newer car because the old one was too hurt. Her mother looked embarrassed, that apologetic smile people get when their kids share too much information. I'm so sorry. She has an incredible memory for faces. I'm surprised she recognized you. No, it's fine. I'm glad you're both doing well. No problems after that day? None at all, thanks to you checking us out. We really appreciated how kind you were. She shifted the shopping bag she was carrying. I'm sorry, I don't even know your name. I'm Diana, and this is my daughter, Sophie. Nice to officially meet you both. The introduction felt oddly formal for a chance encounter in a coffee shop line. I'm glad everything worked out okay with the car and everything. Sophie tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mom, can I get the chocolate muffin? We'll see. Let's wait our turn. The line moved forward. They were next to each other now. That slightly awkward space of acquaintances who weren't quite strangers but weren't exactly friends either. Diana seemed like she wanted to say something else but wasn't sure if it would be appropriate. Look, she finally said. This might be weird, but would you let me buy your coffee? As a thank you? You were really calming that day, especially with Sophie, and it meant a lot. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to, please. It would make me feel better. There was something genuine in her voice, not just politeness, but actual gratitude. Okay, sure. Thank you. They ordered together, and somehow it turned into the three of them sitting at one of the small tables by the window, instead of just taking the coffee to go. Sophie got her chocolate muffin and immediately became absorbed in picking it apart into small pieces. eating it in some elaborate pattern only she understood. "So you do this every day?" Diana asked. "The paramedic thing? Most days, yeah. 4 days a week, 12-hour shifts usually. I don't think I could do it. Seeing people hurt all the time, dealing with emergencies, it seems incredibly stressful. You get used to it. And honestly, a lot of it isn't dramatic emergencies. A lot of it is just helping people on their worst days, making sure they're okay." A sip of coffee. "What do you do?" "Graphic design. I work from home mostly, which is good because it means I can be around for Sophie. Flexible hours, you know?" Sophie looked up from her muffin destruction. "Mom makes pictures on the computer. Pretty ones. She does, huh? That sounds cool." "It pays the bills," Diana said with a slight shrug. "Not exactly saving lives, but it works for us." The conversation flowed easier than expected. There wasn't any of that forced small talk energy. Diana was funny in a dry, self-deprecating way. She asked questions that seemed genuinely interested rather than just polite. When she laughed, it was real, not that performative social laugh people do. Time slipped away faster than anticipated. The coffee was finished. The muffin was gone. Sophie was drawing on a napkin with a pen her mother had in her purse. "I should probably get going." The words came out reluctantly. "Shift starts in 20 minutes. Diana hesitated, then spoke quickly, like she might lose courage if she didn't. "This might be forward. And you can absolutely say no. But would you want to get coffee again sometime? Like intentionally? I don't know many people in town yet. We moved here about a year ago, and I've been so focused on work and Sophie that I haven't really made friends." It was endearing, the nervous way she asked. Like a teenager trying to make plans, not a grown woman. "Yeah, I'd like that. Let me give you my number." They exchanged phones, typed in contact information. Sophie presented her napkin drawing, which appeared to be either a very abstract flower or possibly an octopus. "This is for you." "For being nice, thank you. This is great. I'll keep it." Walking out to the ambulance, there was an unfamiliar lightness to the morning. The shift started on time, but throughout the day, thoughts kept drifting back to the coffee shop. To Diana's laugh. To the easy way the conversation had flowed. To Sophie's serious little face. That evening, a text message arrived. "Hi, this is Diana from the coffee shop. Just wanted to make sure this number worked. Thanks again for the coffee conversation." The response was typed and retyped 3 times before sending something simple. "Hey, glad you texted. How's the rest of your day going?" What followed was a week of text messages. Nothing heavy or intense, just the normal getting-to-know-you exchanges. Favorite foods. Worst movies ever made. Stories from work. Diana sent pictures of Sophie's latest art projects. There was a running joke about the coffee shop's weird seasonal drink flavors. The second coffee meeting happened on a Saturday afternoon. This time, Sophie brought Mr. Hops, who got his own tiny cup of whipped cream. They talked for 2 hours, and again it felt easy, natural. Diana mentioned she was a single mom, had been for about 3 years, didn't volunteer details about Sophie's father, and the topic wasn't pushed. "Sophie talks about you," Diana said at one point. She told her kindergarten teacher about the ambulance man who helped us. "You made an impression." She made an impression too. Most kids that age are either crying or asking to see the sirens. She was so calm. She's an old soul, that one. Always has been. Diana smiled, but there was something bittersweet in it. She's had to grow up a little faster than I would have liked. The next meeting was dinner, at a family-friendly restaurant with a play area where Sophie could run around after eating. Then it was a weekend morning at the park, where Sophie demanded pushes on the swing and demonstrated her ability to climb to the very top of the jungle gym, giving both adults minor heart attacks. Somewhere in those weeks, something shifted. The texts came more frequently. Plans were made without the awkward "we should hang out sometime" vagueness. There were inside jokes now, references to previous conversations. Diana's smile became something to look forward to. Sophie's elaborate stories about kindergarten drama became highlights of the day. It wasn't like falling. It was more like noticing that somewhere along the way, these two people had become woven into the daily fabric of life. The apartment felt quieter on days without plans to see them. Work was still work, but coming home meant text messages waiting. Pictures of Sophie's latest artwork. Diana asking how the shift went. 2 months after that first coffee shop encounter, Diana invited him over for dinner at her place. Nothing fancy, she said, just spaghetti and the chance to hang out without paying restaurant prices. Sophie insisted on showing every toy, every book, and every drawing she'd ever made. Diana's apartment was small but comfortable, full of warm lighting and furniture that looked lived in rather than staged. After Sophie went to bed, they sat on the couch with glasses of wine, talking in lower voices. Diana's shoulder was close enough to touch. The space between them felt charged with possibility. "I'm glad you didn't think I was weird," Diana said quietly. "Approaching you at the coffee shop like that. I'm glad you did. I don't usually do things like that. Put myself out there. But something about that day, the way you were with Sophie, I just thought, I don't know, that maybe you were someone worth knowing. I'm glad you thought so." The conversation continued until late, and when it was time to leave, Diana walked to the door, hesitated, then hugged him goodbye. It was brief but warm, and it felt like a shift into something new. Driving home that night, there was a realization settling in. This wasn't just friendly coffee anymore. This was becoming something real, something that mattered, and the strangest part was how unplanned it all felt, how organic, a chance meeting, a coffee shop encounter, and suddenly life looked different than it had 2 months ago. Sometimes the best things aren't the ones you chase. Sometimes they just show up in a coffee shop line, with a chocolate muffin and a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Hops. Summer arrived with the kind of heat that made everything move slower. The relationship that had started in a coffee shop line had grown into something solid, something real. 6 months had passed since that second meeting, and the calendar was now marked with standing plans, regular dinners, weekend activities that involved all three of them. The shift from dating Diana to becoming part of Sophie's life had happened gradually, carefully. There were boundaries to respect, a child's heart to protect. Diana had been clear from the beginning about taking things slow when it came to her daughter. Sophie had already experienced one important man leaving her life. She didn't need another one unless he was planning to stick around. "I need to know you're serious," Diana had said one evening, her voice quiet but firm. "Not just about me, but about what it means to be in Sophie's life. She's already attached to you. If this isn't going somewhere real, I need to know now before she gets hurt." The answer had been easy. "I'm serious. I'm not going anywhere." And that promise was kept, day after day. Sophie's kindergarten graduation happened on a Thursday afternoon. The tiny chairs in the school gymnasium weren't built for adults, but sitting there watching Sophie receive her certificate, seeing her wave excitedly from the stage, it felt important. More important than missing a few hours of work. Diana reached over and squeezed his hand during the ceremony. "Thank you for being here. Where else would I be?" Summer meant trips to the community pool, where Sophie practiced her swimming skills with inflatable arm floaties and endless enthusiasm. It meant backyard barbecues at Diana's small rental house, the one with the fence that needed fixing and the garden she kept saying she'd plant next year. It meant becoming a regular presence, a fixture in their daily routine. The spare toothbrush appeared in Diana's bathroom sometime in July. It wasn't a big discussion or a dramatic moment. Diana had simply put it there next to hers like it had always belonged. A drawer in her dresser became designated space for a few changes of clothes. Keys were exchanged just in case of emergencies. Sophie started calling him by name without the ambulance man prefix. She'd run to the door when he arrived, talking a mile a minute about her day before he'd even gotten his shoes off. She insisted he read bedtime stories because, according to her expert opinion, he did the best character voices. The dragon voice was particularly popular, though it left his throat sore. The guys at the station noticed the change. 7 years of working together meant they could read shifts in mood, alterations in routine. "You're different lately," his partner said during a slow Tuesday afternoon, in a good way. "Less stressed." "Yeah, I guess I am. It's the woman and her kid, right? The ones you've been seeing?" "Yeah," his partner nodded approvingly. "Good for you, man. You deserve something good." But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were challenges that came with blending into an existing family unit. Sophie had moments where she'd pull away, get clingy with her mother, make it clear that Diana was hers first. Those moments stung, but Diana explained it with patience. "She's testing you, making sure you're not going to replace her relationship with me. Just give her space when she needs it. She'll come around." And she always did. After the pulling away came the running back, Sophie seeking approval for a drawing or asking to play a game. Learning to read those rhythms, understanding when to step forward and when to step back became its own skill. Diana had her own fears too. Late one night after Sophie was asleep and they were cleaning up dinner dishes together, she spoke what had been on her mind. "I'm scared sometimes," she admitted, scrubbing a plate with more force than necessary, "that this is too good. That something's going to go wrong because it usually does." "What do you mean?" Sophie's father left when things got hard. When being a parent stopped being fun and started being real work. "I keep waiting for you to realize that this life, this instant family thing is more than you signed up for." The dish towel was set down. "Diana, look at me. I'm not him. I know what I signed up for. I'm here because I want to be here, all of it. The bedtime stories and the kindergarten drama and the chicken nugget dinners. All of it." She leaned against the counter, eyes shining. "You say that now. I'll keep saying it. However long it takes for you to believe me." August brought Sophie's 6th birthday party, held at the local park with a dozen screaming children and a superhero theme. There was a moment during the party when Sophie ran up, breathless and happy, and grabbed his hand to drag him to the playground. "You have to see how high I can go on the swings now. Push me." Diana caught his eye from across the park where she was cutting the cake. Her smile said everything. This was what family looked like. Messy and loud and absolutely perfect. September meant the start of 1st grade, and Sophie had opinions about everything from her lunchbox to her backpack to which shoes were appropriate for the first day. Diana was stressed about the transition, worried about Sophie making friends, keeping up with schoolwork, all the normal parent anxieties. "You're going to be great." The reassurance came easy now. "She's smart and brave. She'll figure it out." "When did you become the calm one?" Diana asked with a tired laugh. "I deal with emergencies for a living. 1st grade doesn't scare me. But helping with homework did present its own challenges. 1st grade math had apparently changed significantly since his own school days. Sophie found his confusion hilarious and took great joy in explaining the new methods to him, like he was the student and she was the teacher. The rhythm of life settled into something comfortable. Work shifts, family dinners, quiet evenings after Sophie went to bed where he and Diana could just exist together. Watching TV, talking about nothing important. Her feet in his lap while she sketched design ideas in her notebook. Friends started referring to them as a unit. Invitations came addressed to all 3 of them. Diana's small circle of mom friends from Sophie's school accepted him as part of the package. He became the designated lighter of birthday candles, the person people called when they needed help moving furniture, the guy who could explain what to do if someone was choking. His apartment sat empty most nights. The lease was coming up for renewal and the decision seemed obvious even though neither of them had officially discussed it. What if I just didn't renew? The question came out casual, but it felt heavy with implication. "My lease is up in October." Diana looked up from her laptop. "What would you do instead?" "I was thinking maybe I could stay here. Officially, if you wanted." She was quiet for a moment and panic started to creep in. Maybe it was too soon. Maybe she wasn't ready for that step, then she smiled. "I was wondering when you'd bring it up. You practically live here anyway. We should probably make it official." "Yeah? Yeah, Sophie will be thrilled. She asked me last week why you still have another house when you're always here." Smart kid. The smartest. October arrived with cooler weather and the official move. It wasn't much to transport, really. Most of his stuff had migrated over the past months. But making it permanent, putting his name on the lease, combining the mail, it felt significant. Adult, real. Sophie helped unpack boxes, claiming to be the supervisor of the operation. She had strong opinions about where everything should go and why. Mr. Hopp sat on the back of the couch, overseeing the whole process. That night, after everything was unpacked and Sophie was asleep in her room, Diana and he sat in their living room. Not her living room anymore, theirs. "This is nice," Diana said softly. "Having you here. Really here. It feels right. Sophie told me today that she's glad you're staying. She said now we're a real family." The words hit deeper than expected. A real family. Somehow, without quite noticing when it happened, that's exactly what they'd become. Not a paramedic who responded to an accident. Not a woman he met by chance. Not a little girl with a stuffed rabbit. But a family, built piece by piece, day by day, out of patience and care and showing up when it mattered. The path that had started with a routine call had led here, to this living room, to this life. And it was better than anything that could have been imagined back on that Tuesday morning when this all began. November came in cold and wet. The kind of weather that made roads dangerous and people careless. The shift started normally enough, the usual morning routine that had become second nature. Kiss Diana goodbye, ruffle Sophie's hair while she ate cereal and complained about a math test. Drive to the station, check the equipment, wait for the first call. It came just after noon. Multi-vehicle accident on the interstate. Freezing rain had turned the highway into a skating rink, and someone had hit their brakes at exactly the wrong moment. What followed was the kind of pileup that made the news. 7 vehicles, maybe more. The initial report was chaotic. Dispatch struggling to get clear information as more calls flooded in. The ambulance arrived to a scene that looked like a war zone. Twisted metal everywhere, broken glass sparkling on the wet pavement like diamonds. People standing on the shoulder, some crying, some just staring in shock. The sound of car alarms blaring, mixing with the wail of more sirens approaching. Training took over. It always did. The brain shifted into a different mode, one where emotions got locked away and the job became the only thing that mattered. Triage, assess, prioritize. The worst injuries first. The walking wounded could wait. There was a man with a head wound, bleeding but conscious. A teenager with a possible broken arm, crying but stable. An elderly woman trapped in her car, confused but responsive. The partner worked on one side of the pileup while the other side demanded attention. That's where the worst one was. A small SUV, the front end completely crumpled from where it had been caught between 2 larger vehicles. The driver's door was smashed in. Inside was a young woman, maybe late 20s, unconscious and bleeding. And in the back seat, 2 children screaming. The sound of those kids crying triggered something. Not panic, not yet, but a tightness in the chest that hadn't been there a second before. Push it down. Focus on the job. The fire department was working on the driver's door with extraction tools. The noise was deafening. Every second counted. We need to get those kids out first. The decision came fast. Can we access the back door? A firefighter tried the rear passenger door. It opened, damaged but functional. The 2 children, both under 5 by the look of them, were in car seats, terrified but appeared physically okay. A bystander helped get them out, wrapped them in blankets, moved them away from the wreckage, but the mother. The driver. She was in bad shape. Head trauma. Possible internal injuries. The metal had to be cut away carefully, every second feeling like an hour. When they finally got her out, the work began in earnest. Establishing an airway, starting an IV, checking vitals. Calling for air transport because the injuries were too severe for ground transport to the nearest hospital. The whole time, those kids were crying in the background, screaming for their mommy. Someone was trying to comfort them, but what comfort was there? Their world had just exploded into chaos and fear. The woman was stabilized enough for transport. The helicopter landed in a nearby field. She was loaded and it lifted off into the gray sky. The children went in a separate ambulance with a social worker who had arrived on scene. The probability that this mother would survive the flight was good. The probability she'd ever be the same was less certain. The scene took hours to clear. More ambulances came and went. The tow trucks hauled away the destroyed vehicles. Police directed traffic. Statements were taken. The freezing rain continued to fall. By the time the shift ended, exhaustion had settled into the bones. The kind of tired that comes from holding trauma at arm's length for hours. The drive home was automatic. The brain too overloaded to process anything beyond the mechanics of driving. Diana was already asleep when the key turned in the lock. It was past 2 in the morning. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Sophie's nightlight glowed from under her bedroom door. Normal. Everything here was normal, but nothing felt normal. The uniform came off. A shower that was too hot trying to wash away the images that kept replaying. The smell of gasoline and blood and fear. The sound of those children screaming, sitting on the edge of the bed in the dark, unable to shake the feeling that something had cracked open inside. Diana stirred, her voice thick with sleep. "Hey, you're home." "How was work?" The answer stuck in the throat. "How was work?" How did you explain what work had been? The words wouldn't come out right. She sat up, more awake now. "What's wrong?" "What happened?" "Bad accident today. Multiple vehicles. Kids involved." Diana turned on the bedside lamp and the light made everything too real. She could see it now, whatever was written on the face. The way the jaw was clenched. the shake in the hands, "Are you okay?" And that's when it broke. 7 years of holding it together. 7 years of being professional, compartmentalizing, not bringing work home. All of it crumbled in an instant. The tears came hard and unexpected. The kind of crying that felt like it was being torn out from somewhere deep inside. Diana wrapped her arms around without hesitation, holding tight while everything poured out. The fear, the helplessness, the image of those kids' faces that wouldn't stop replaying. I kept seeing Sophie, the words came out broken, in that back seat. I kept thinking, what if it was her? What if it was you? What if I couldn't save you? Shh, I'm right here. Sophie's safe in her room. We're okay. That woman's kids, they were just screaming for her. And she was barely alive. And all I could think was that those could be my kids someday. That could be my family. Diana held tighter, one hand stroking through hair, the other pressed against the back. But it's not. We're safe. You're safe. The crying eventually subsided into shaky breaths. Exhaustion and emotion had wrung everything out. Diana didn't let go, didn't try to fix it or make it better with empty words. She just held on, present and solid. I've never brought it home before, the admission came quietly. The job. I always kept it separate. Maybe that's not healthy. Maybe you're supposed to bring it home sometimes. I don't know how to do this, how to care this much about you and Sophie and still do my job. Today I was terrified the whole time. That's never happened before. Diana pulled back enough to look at the face, her expression serious. Having something to lose doesn't make you weaker. It makes you human. Those kids today, someone loved them enough to put them in car seats, to protect them. You helped save their mother. That matters. What if I can't do it anymore? The job? Then we'll figure it out. But I think you're just scared. And that's okay. Being scared means you have something worth protecting now. The words settled into the quiet. Outside, the freezing rain had turned to snow, visible in the streetlight through the window. Inside, wrapped in Diana's arms, something shifted. The wall that had existed between work life and personal life had finally come down, and maybe that was okay. Maybe it even needed to happen. I love you, the words came out raw but certain. I love you and Sophie so much it terrifies me. I love you too. We both do. They sat like that for a long time until the shaking stopped and breathing returned to normal. Diana eventually convinced him to try to sleep, though the night was restless, full of dreams that jerked him awake in cold sweats. Morning came too early. Sophie's voice carried from the kitchen, asking her mother where the strawberry jam was. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. Getting out of bed felt like lifting weights, but the pull of that normal life was stronger than the desire to hide under the covers. Sophie looked up when he entered the kitchen, her expression brightening. "You're home!" Mom said you had to work really late. Yeah, busy night. She studied him with that too wise look she sometimes got. Are you sad? Kids always knew. They could sense these things in ways adults had forgotten. A little bit, yeah. Do you need a hug? Hugs help when you're sad. The offer from this small person, so freely given, broke something loose again. But this time it wasn't falling apart. It was letting in light. Yeah, I could use a hug. Sophie wrapped her small arms around as far as they would go. Mr. Hops was clutched in one hand, pressed against his back. It's okay. You're home now. You're safe. Out of the mouths of children. She had no idea how right she was. This was home. This kitchen with the morning light streaming in. This little girl offering comfort. Diana making coffee with knowing eyes. This was what mattered. This was what made the hard days worth surviving. The next few days were difficult. The images didn't fade quickly. Sleep was elusive. But Diana was patient, and Sophie was a constant source of unexpected wisdom and unconditional acceptance. Slowly, the sharp edges of the trauma began to dull. 2 days after the accident, sitting in the living room while Sophie practiced reading her homework aloud, a realization crystallized. Life was fragile. Tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. The woman from the accident had probably started her day normally, never imagining it would end in a helicopter. Those kids had probably been arguing about something silly moments before impact. If life could change in an instant, then the good moments needed to be held tighter. The people who mattered needed to know they mattered. Time couldn't be wasted waiting for the perfect moment. Diana sat on the couch listening to Sophie stumble through a story about a talking turtle. The late afternoon sun caught in her hair. She looked tired like most parents at the end of a long day, but content. This was it. This was everything. The decision formed fully in that moment. A decision that had probably been building for months but finally crystallized in the aftermath of crisis. Some things shouldn't wait. Some people shouldn't have to wonder how much they mean. Tomorrow the search for a ring would begin. Because life was too short and too uncertain to wait for perfect timing. And this family, built from a chance encounter and morning coffee and bedtime stories, deserved to be made official. Deserved to be chosen deliberately and completely. Diana caught him staring and smiled. What? Nothing. Just thinking about how lucky I am. Sophie finished her sentence with a triumphant flourish and looked up for praise. Did I do good? You did great, sweetheart. And in that ordinary moment, everything felt extraordinarily right. The ring shopping happened on a Thursday afternoon during a rare day off. 3 different jewelry stores, each one making the decision feel more real and more terrifying. How do you choose a ring for someone who changed your entire life? What piece of metal and stone could possibly represent what Diana meant? The jeweler at the 3rd store was an older woman with kind eyes and the patience of someone who'd seen 1,000 nervous people walk through her doors. You look overwhelmed, she observed. Is it that obvious? You're the 5th person today with that exact expression. Tell me about her. And somehow that helped. Talking about Diana's laugh, the way she always tied her hair up when she was concentrating on work, how she took her coffee with too much sugar, the way she'd built a whole life for herself and her daughter through sheer determination. The jeweler listened and then pulled out a simple ring, elegant without being flashy. This one, she said, classic, timeless for someone who values substance over show. It was perfect. The price made the wallet hurt, but some things were worth it. The harder part was planning the actual proposal. Every scenario that came to mind felt either too grand or not special enough. A restaurant felt too public. The elaborate setup felt too performative. What would Diana actually want? The answer came during an ordinary evening at home. Sophie was at the kitchen table working on an art project for school with the intense focus she brought to everything. Diana was next to her, helping cut construction paper while simultaneously answering work emails on her laptop. It was chaotic and normal and perfectly them. Sophie would want to be part of this. It was her family too. The next day, while Diana was at a client meeting and Sophie was at school, a trip to Sophie's classroom during lunch recess happened with permission from her teacher. Sophie was on the playground, hanging upside down from the monkey bars with 2 friends. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? It's important. Sophie dropped down and ran over, immediately concerned. What's wrong? Is Mom okay? Everything's fine. I actually need your help with something special. They sat on a bench while the other kids played. The small box came out of the pocket and Sophie's eyes went wide. Is that what I think it is? I want to ask your mom to marry me, but I wanted to ask you first if that would be okay with you. Sophie stared at the ring, then up at the face, then back at the ring. Her expression was serious, that old soul look she got when thinking about important things. Does this mean you'll be my real dad? The question hit straight in the chest. I'd like to be, yeah. If that's what you want. Would I call you Dad? You can call me whatever feels right to you. No pressure. She thought about this for a long moment. Other kids were screaming and laughing around them, but she was quiet, considering. Finally, she looked up. I think I'd like that. Having a dad. A real one who stays. I'm not going anywhere, kiddo. I promise. Okay then. You can marry Mom. But I get to help with the asking part. Deal? Deal. They spent the rest of lunch recess planning. Sophie had opinions, naturally. It had to be at home, she insisted, because that's where they were a family, and she wanted to make a card, something special that her mom could keep forever. And there should be pizza involved because pizza was Mom's favorite comfort food. The collaboration with a 6-year-old on something this important was not something that had been anticipated in life. But it felt right. This wasn't just about asking Diana to marry someone. It was about asking to officially become Sophie's father, too. She deserved to be part of that moment. The plan came together over the next week. Sophie worked on her card during art time at school, keeping it hidden from her mother with the seriousness of a spy on a mission. The card was covered in drawings of the 3 of them holding hands with a big heart around them. Inside, in Sophie's careful first-grade handwriting, it said, "Will you marry us?" December arrived with early darkness and the first real snow. Friday evening was chosen. Nothing fancy, just a normal family night at home. Pizza was ordered, Sophie's favorite kind with extra cheese. They ate in the living room while watching one of Sophie's approved movies, the kind with talking animals and songs she knew all the words to. Diana seemed tired but happy, curled up on the couch with her pizza and a blanket. Sophie kept shooting conspiratorial looks, barely containing her excitement. It was a miracle she'd kept the secret for a whole week. After the movie ended and the pizza boxes were empty, Sophie suddenly announced she'd made something special for her mom. Another art project? Diana asked with a smile. You've been busy lately. This one's really special. Close your eyes. Diana obliged, humoring her daughter's dramatic flair. Sophie ran to her room and returned with the card, thrusting it forward with barely suppressed glee. Okay, open. Diana opened her eyes and took the card, reading the front with a smile that faded into confusion as she read the inside. Her eyes went from the card to Sophie to where the living room floor was now occupied. Down on one knee, the ring box open. What? What is this? Sophie and I have been conspiring. The words came out surprisingly steady despite the heart hammering in the chest. We wanted to ask you together. Sophie bounced on her toes. We want to be a real family. Forever! Diana's hand covered her mouth, eyes already shining with tears. Diana, you and Sophie changed my life the day I met you. I thought I was just doing my job, responding to an accident. I had no idea I was meeting the two most important people in my world. You've made me better, happier, more whole than I ever knew I could be. I love you. I love Sophie. I love the life we've built together. Will you marry me? Will you let me be Sophie's dad officially? Will you make this permanent?